Pressure is mounting on Israel's government to secure a ceasefire deal in Gaza as the Israeli military expands its offensive in the territory. Relatives of the Israeli hostages held by Hamas in Gaza gathered in Tel Aviv on Saturday, calling on their government to secure the release of their loved ones. But members of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet oppose a deal with Hamas, and Israel's military is preparing to seize more territory in Gaza City. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says dozens of people were killed in Israeli attacks on Saturday. More deaths were recorded due to malnutrition after a global hunger monitor declared famine in the territory.
Thousands scramble for aid from UN convoys at the Zikim crossing in the north of the Gaza Strip. At least 6 people were killed here on Saturday by Israeli gunfire, according to Gazan health officials.
I came here to get food for my children, but I couldn't get anything because of all the people and the difficulty of the situation between the shootings and the trucks running over people.
Here in Gaza City, where many are only surviving on infrequent handouts of rice, famine has been declared in a UN-backed hunger monitoring report, making official what many Gazans have long experienced.
We came to the charity kitchens because there's no aid distribution. We don't receive any aid. It doesn't reach the UN or the WFP. People steal it and sell it in the markets.
A UN official said famine was being caused by the systematic obstruction of aid by Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected the report, calling it an outright lie. In a statement, he said, Israel does not have a policy of starvation. Israel has a policy of preventing starvation. But people are starving. Their malnutrition exacerbating injuries. This man is being treated for a gunshot wound. His father said he used to weigh 62 kilograms, but has lost almost half his weight.
We needed flour. He went to get it and was shot in the back by an Israeli tank.
Malnutrition, along with poor sanitation, is also causing a spike in suspected cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome, in which the immune system attacks the nervous system, causing paralysis. The UN says 85 possible cases and 3 deaths have been recorded in the past 3 months. This is one of the most recent young victims.
The first thing that happened to him was with his limbs. Then he lost the ability to speak. He couldn't swallow either due to his lower jaw. He couldn't blink anymore, and his eyes stayed open all the time and were shedding tears.
And the UN says there's no stock of the medication required for treatment. For many in Gaza, the declaration of famine changes little and comes too late.
Right, DW's Middle East analyst Shani Rozanes joins me in the studio to talk more on this. Shani, there's been reports of widespread civilian casualties, a formal declaration of famine, but has any of this changed the situation on the ground for people in Gaza?
Well, not for the better, definitely not, I'm afraid so. Israel is very much adamant in going ahead with its operation into Gaza City. I mean, expanding it. It's already been operating in the outskirts of Gaza City for the last week and a half or so. It's also operating in other parts of the Gaza Strip, like in Rafah and Khan Yunis. We've seen also casualties there in the last days. So Israel keeps on pushing, and Israel's strategy is that, it's only force that will bring the release of the hostages. We've been hearing it for almost 2 years now, and it's also believing now that Hamas is under so much pressure by the fear of Israel conquering Gaza City, that it would maybe make Hamas concede and make some more compromise that will maybe bring some sort of a change in the dynamics, of course, for the Palestinians on the ground. Also for Hamas, we are not seeing much of a change. We're seeing much more of the suffering and the pain that we've been seeing, and a lot of more, deteriorating conditions when it comes to, as we've seen, of hunger and famine and real starvation that is occurring.
Right. I mean, as you say, Israel continues its strikes on Gaza. It makes me wonder, is a ceasefire any closer?
Well, interestingly enough, Israel is taking its time when it comes to responding to Hamas. Hamas was, about a week ago, said we are willing to go ahead with a partial deal that was called the Witkoff Agreement, which would bring 60 days of ceasefire and about 28 Israeli hostages, some alive, some not, back to Israel. That was the game in town, I would say. That was on the table about a couple of weeks ago, up until like 3-4 weeks ago. That was something that Israel was very much pursuing. And then now Israel is in a completely different place. Netanyahu says we don't want any partial deals. We want a whole deal to bring the completion of all the 50 hostages back and end to the war. We're not going to settle for anything less. And he claims to have the American backing, sort of like even Witkoff himself, who's the American envoy to these talks, sort of changing position. And that when we actually have not heard anything from the Americans to make us believe that he is wrong, trying to stand against Israel or push Israel anywhere. So this is where we now, we're a bit stuck. Israel says it will send people to the negotiations in Doha later this week, but Israel is taking its time because Israel believes that the closer it's closing in on Gaza, the more stressed Hamas is and the bigger leverage Israel has in the negotiations.
Right. Meanwhile, domestic pressure is increasing inside Israel. Could this force the government to strike a deal with Hamas?
Well, that's a great question. We see, the hostages' families are very much escalating their rhetoric against the government. I think for a long time they were trying to appease the government and think maybe we can work together. But now they're very much adversaries of Netanyahu, clearly pointing that, they're in different positions. The families claim, and with lots, they have facts to back that the military operation has only caused lives of hostages, and at least 40 of them we know found their death in Gaza during army operations, directly or indirectly connected to military operations of the IDF around where they were held. So they keep on saying that, and they also say, and it seems like this is what we're seeing, there's two separate timelines. The hostages timeline that is very pressing. The recent photos that have been released show that they are also suffering from malnutrition and starvation. And they say, the hostages' families say, we don't have time, our beloved ones are dying, in the tunnels, while at the same time Netanyahu seems to be taking his time and is not seem to be too deterred or too affected by the protests that are growing stronger and louder.
Right. Shani, Rozanes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.